Sinners has been on an insane run this award season. 500 nominations, 300 wins, and by the time I post this video, the Oscars will have already aired, so that number might have gone up. But somehow, the thing that everybody is talking about is not the movie. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Atlantis. I make commentary content on every corner of the entertainment arts. But honestly, I'm really disgusted by this year's BAFTA awards. 500 nominations and 300 wins. That's the kind of statistic that sounds really fake to us not yet famous folk. But that's until we remember that there are more award shows than the big ones, the Golden Globes, the Oscars, the BAFTAs. These are shows that everyone watches. Everyone watches. They're so prestigious and they're so big name because they're treated with dignity and respect. Or at least they're supposed to be. As most of you know, and have probably looked for this video by search because it was just that wild, the internet's husband, Michael B. Jordan, and Delroy Lindo were at the BAFTAs. The BAFTAs is pretty much the British version of the Oscars. Of course they were there. Sinners had 13 nominations that night. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were presenting the Best Visual Effects Award for Avatar: Fire and Ash, but then someone in the audience yelled this.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to
Yeah. So it's been revealed quite quickly that the man who yelled this was John Davidson. This man is the executive producer of I Swear, and this man also has Tourette's syndrome, which was the story behind the movie I Swear. I want to make it also very clear that only a small percentage of the people that know about this incident are mad at him. For the most part, Gen Z is very familiar with how Tourette's work. Real familiar. Is it very frightening that a 400-year-old slur was shouted at two black actors at what is supposed to be a dignified ceremony? Yes, absolutely. You know what's more frightening? You know what people are actually furious with? The fact that the BBC had the opportunity to keep that moment from ever being seen by the public. Bet you didn't know that part, did you? Yeah, the BAFTAs are not live. They're pre-recorded, which means the BBC had the opportunity to remove that moment before it ever aired. And they allegedly told John Davidson that all of his tics will be edited out. All of them. It gets worse when you find out there was an active microphone next to him the entire event. One that he allegedly asked to not be sat beside. Are you understanding why people are actually upset now? I would make a bag off of that lawsuit, but that's me. For anyone that doesn't know how these award ceremonies work, they are not broadcast live. This is just to account for movement and transitions and just cutting down things that wouldn't be interesting to the general public. What this also means though is that someone had to watch that footage, mark it, review it, have someone else review it, or a whole team of someone else's review it, and then they all had to collectively decide whether that moment stays or goes. It was not an accident that ended up broadcast and uncensored on international television. Of course, we can definitely sympathize with John Davidson here, to an appropriate extent, but still, things are completely out of his control with this. I can only imagine the embarrassment someone must feel when something like that goes down, especially after being allegedly promised that nothing like that would have ever aired, and then they do it anyway. And they put you next to an active microphone to make sure they can do it. The BAFTAs released an official statement about this on February 24th. So yeah, this is a little bit old, but sue me. At the BAFTA Film Awards last night, our guests heard very offensive language that carries incomparable trauma and pain for so many. We want to acknowledge the harm this has caused, address what happened, and apologize to all. You guys missed an Oxford comma. It's supposed to go right between happened and. I feel like you guys should have caught that, but we do know that your editing team isn't the best. One of our guests, John Davidson, MBE, which means Member of Most Excellent Order of British something, if anyone's curious, has Tourette's syndrome and has devoted his life to educating and campaigning for better understanding of this condition. Tourette's syndrome causes involuntary verbal tics that the individual has no control over. Such tics are in no way a reflection of an individual's belief and are not intentional. John Davidson is an executive producer of BAFTA-nominated film I Swear, which is based on his life experience. That's just the first page. There's another slide. I want to unpack this first. Does anyone else feel like, and hear me out here, does this not feel a little bit like a South Park episode? Just a little. Hasn't life kind of been feeling like that recently? Like a little bit, just a little bit. The fact that y'all put a man with Tourette's next to a microphone, right? Let's just get that out the way. That's crazy. But you broadcasted the part where he shouted a 400-year-old racial slur at the two black actors in the most important black movie of 2025. I can't wrap my head around that. The fact that that happened in the first place is crazy. But the fact that you guys didn't take the measures you needed to take to keep other people from hearing about it, when you guys are so good at covering up everything else, is kind of wild. It feels a little bit, and I don't want to point fingers here, but planned? Am I wild for that? Is that crazy? Guys, anyway, here's the second part of the statement. We take the duty of care to all our guests very seriously. You put a man with Tourette's next to an active microphone. And we start from a position of inclusion. We took measures to make those in attendance aware of the tics, announcing to the audience before the ceremony began and throughout that John was in the room and they may hear strong language, involuntary noises, or movement during the ceremony. Pause. I have a question, and I mean this from a place of genuine curiosity. I'm not trying to shame anyone. Why is it that every time I hear about Tourette's, it's always profanity? Every time. Only about 10 to 15 people with Tourette's in real life have coprolalia. I googled this. Coprolalia is swearing and vulgar tics. A very small percentage of people actually have it. The only time we ever see tics represented is as a gag joke, when someone is saying something they're not supposed to be saying. The majority of people don't even have the symptom, which was the point of the movie, I swear. I'm 90% sure, actually. I haven't seen it. Can we not? Can we get proper it's just not funny. It's not funny. I get that sometimes people saying things they don't mean to say can be oh haha, that was, but it's not though. I'm gonna get too heated about this if I don't move on. So I'm gonna move on. Early in the ceremony, a loud tic in the form of a profoundly offensive term was heard by many people in the room. It was loud and heard by many people in the room because you put him next to an active microphone. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage at the time, and we apologize unreservedly to them and to all those impacted. We would like to thank Michael and Delroy for their dignity and profession. Now, they go on to say that John left the auditorium and watched the rest of the ceremony from a screen. I would be so embarrassed. And I don't even mean this in the way you should be ashamed of yourself. I don't know if you guys ever grew up with social anxiety, but having to stay in the room after doing something embarrassing that's torment. That's torture. That's cruel and unusual punishment. Not to mention, because he has Tourette's, this is indefinitely not the first time this has happened. I'm not saying he's running around rattling off the hard R every day, but there are just so many small things that happen throughout your day that you can't escape. Telling your barista to F off, or nearly smacking your boss or something. I can't imagine. It's not a hot take to say that people with Tourette's have it bad. I'm not calling myself woke here. I'm just being sympathetic. You have to be sympathetic. Your movie is nominated for a almost global award, and then you can't even really enjoy it because the minute that you leave, you're kind of cooked on the internet. By the way, I swear did win 5 BAFTAs that night, in case anybody was curious. Can we take a second to appreciate the fact that Michael B. Jordan didn't even flinch? That man was stone cold. Him and Delroy handled that just about as well as they could have. If this clip was played on silent, you would have no idea anything went down if you were just looking at Michael. Which I was. A well-tailored suit is a service to the community. But if you think that was the only scandal at BAFTA that night, you're wrong. You didn't know? It's because they didn't want you to. BBC forgot to edit out the racial slur, but they didn't forget to edit out the pro-Palestine comment. Yeah, Akinola Davies Jr., I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that name right, tell me if I'm wrong, won and accepted the award for Outstanding Debut for the movie My Father's Shadow. During his acceptance speech, he said the words, "Free Palestine."
And lastly, to all those whose parents migrated to obtain a better life for their children, to the economic migrant, the conflict migrant, those under occupation, dictatorship, persecution, and those experiencing genocide, you matter, your stories matter more than ever. Your dreams are an act of resistance. To those watching at home, archive your loved ones, archive your stories, yesterday, today, and forever. For Nigeria, for London, the Congo, Sudan, free Palestine. Thank you.
What did the BBC do with that speech, I wonder? They didn't just censor it, they didn't just bleep him out, they cut it entirely. They cut the entire section of his speech. The BBC edited out someone calling for social justice, they didn't edit out the slur. Just digest that for a second. Incredible editing priority, guys. Truly, that is inspiring work in your control room. This was a very important message. Very important. He didn't just say free Palestine, he said London, he said Nigeria, he said Congo. He said the white one, and you guys still cut it out. I want to go on a very woke rant about exploitation right now, but I do think Jayme Lawson said it better than me.
The events this weekend exposed a couple things. Institutionally, we still don't understand what inclusion means. Just because you invite someone into a space, but you don't provide the necessary resources to keep them and everyone else in that room safe by them being there, that's not inclusivity. That's exploitation. That man's disability got exploited that night. And it led to multiple offenses. That's the BAFTA's fault. And then the BBC, to air what they aired, right, is careless. And not like some haphazard accident. No, like a real lack of care was exercised for those two black men. And we know the BBC knows how to take care of what they care about, right? Because they censored a bunch of other. They went so far as to make sure certain things weren't topics of conversation. They censored Akinola's speech, the director of My Father's Shadow, which is an amazing film, by the way. So you censored one black man, you failed to protect two others, and our production designer, Hannah, you do not care for our dignity, our humanity. You want to celebrate our art, but you won't protect. And that's why we celebrate sinners.
Now see, this is where things start to feel like instigating. I'm not saying it was intentional. I'm really not. I do just want to know why a man with Tourette's was placed next to an active microphone after he allegedly was asked not to be placed there. Even if he didn't ask to not be put next to an active microphone, that should have been common sense. I really don't want to believe that we as a society would exploit something like that. I really don't. Hoping something can happen that they would get clips of or make headlines from. I don't want to believe it. The fact that what happened when it happened and was still broadcast, I think a whole separate apology should be made publicly to John Davidson for that not being edited out, because that would be wildly embarrassing. And the hate he was getting online for a short period of time, and is probably still getting, is a little bit absurd. Not only just for airing it, but an apology should have been put out for putting him next to the microphone. I'm not getting over the fact that they even did that in the first place. That should have never been allowed to happen. And it shouldn't have had to be a request, it should have been a given. You guys knew the condition and you did it anyways. You knew. Covering up the fact that you probably could have organized it for something scandalous or inappropriate to happen that you could get clout off of is worse than the incident that actually happened, in my personal opinion. Award shows have kind of been struggling for a hot minute, I can't even lie. Not the actual award season, but the amount of people tuning in to watch the shows. A lot of us find out about some of these things through TikTok and Instagram. Like, a lot of us are not tuning in to the shows live anymore. Can't even act humble about it because I did find out about this through Instagram. This happens more than people actually tuning in to watch the ceremony. But the fact that news travels through social media creates this really weird incentive to cause chaos at the award shows. Because the moments that trend online are never really the awards, they're the chaos that happens when they're being given. Like, have y'all noticed that in award shows nowadays, there's always something wild going on when back in the day they used to be really, like, classy and elegant? They're clip farming. Can we call it what it is? Let's call it what it is. You guys are clip farming. You need things that you can post about. If you watch every award show that's happened in the last 7 or 8 years, I can almost guarantee that you're going to find one thing you remember seeing on social media. Actors and other performers and other creatives are getting banned from award shows for things that they actually might have been set up to do. But, okay, I'm getting a little bit, that's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but you get the point. Sinners had 500 nominations, 300 wins, but the only thing anyone can remember about the BAFTAs this year is a moment we never should have been able to see in the first place. This is the messiest thing that happened in an award season since Will Smith smacked the piss out of Chris Rock. Do y'all remember that? What is going on? That's all for this video. My name is Atlantis. You can follow me on Instagram and on my TikTok. Links are in the description for both. While you're at it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps more than you know. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Guys, do you like my necklace? Look, my mom got it for me. Isn't it so cute? And she got me like matching earrings too. They have a microphone on them and like the same like feeder masks. Oh my god, why can't I get them? And they have like the same feeder masks too. And then she got me like a Hamilton tote. You guys, it's so cute. Look at that! Guys, isn't that so cute? Stop. Yeah, my mom is so sweet.